Okay, so welcome again to Richardson Plano Networkers. Today we will connect to Thrive Mastermind with our guest speaker, Kris Miller, who will be speaking about the 3 secrets for safe money and a fabulous future. During today's mastermind, participants will learn the simple strategies and tactics that anyone can use to create income they will never outlive. Kris will share how to protect your life savings and ensure you have enough income to live comfortably throughout your retirement. Insider secrets will be revealed so you can maximize your finances and income, reduce your stress and frustration, and know your future is protected. Please join with me in welcoming our guest speaker for today, April 15th, Kris Miller.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, well, let me share the screen here and do this. I'm going to put this in before I forget it. And now I'm going to share the screen and see if I can manage all of this right here. And let's see, we got, okay. And so hopefully, no, I'm not sharing it right. Are you guys seeing it? You seeing it? Oh, Randy.
Yep,
Okay.
we got it. We got it.
Okay.
It's good.
Okay, good. All right. Okay. So thank you guys for welcoming me here. It's a pleasure to meet everybody. And I've been in practice for 30 years. And during the time I received a lot of beautiful blessings, over 6,000 people I've talked to, and no one on my watch has ever lost a dime. It's not that I'm so brilliant. It's just, thousands of people coming in, and I started to see a pattern. And I'll talk about a little bit about this later if you want to do a deep dive. I don't charge for this, and we can talk about it. But about because there's a lot of strategies. I know a few of you are on there and do insurance and you're targeting different things, but how I got started and I really was about helping people protect their assets. And so, as I said, no one on my watch has ever lost a dime. And it was over the years that I really learned about this, because what I saw was from my own family and some of the trials that I've learned along the way. But I think what really got me started was as a paralegal, and I was working with an attorney, and this little widow came into the office, and all she had was a car and a house and no money. And this is 1991, 92. He wanted to charge her $5,000. And it was a little heartless because she didn't have any money, and I knew what it took to prepare the documents. Hey, can you give her a deal, right? And he looked at me as cold as ice and said no. And that's what got me going. That's what got me started. And so I started targeting on how to protect assets. And what I really saw was, like, the first 10 years, what happened was people were coming into my office and they were starting their retirement plan at 60. And I was like, what's going on here? Why aren't people Oh, you go to school, you learn how to make money, you get out of school, and what do? Go make money and give it to somebody else to usually gamble. And when they get to their third and fourth quarter, it's like a roulette wheel. Will it be there or will not? And so the first decade was great because everybody was living off their interest, and that was really great. But then at the end of the 90s, 2000, we had another crash. And the next decade, people were coming in eating peanut butter and crackers. Nothing wrong with peanut butter and crackers, but their lifestyle had changed. And I saw, whether I had really high-end clients with $44 million or people that were living paycheck to paycheck, there was a pattern. There was 3 things that they were missing. And I started seeing this pattern in everything. And so I focused on the losses and taxes and catastrophic illness. It was kind of like swimming across the other side of the swimming pool. There are all these hidden alligators around, and you really don't know, but they are paying attention to us. Every move we make, and now you know what I'm talking about. And so as it started to happen, the dangers started getting real sneaky, and there's so much, things are moving so fast, and there's so much coming in. People barely have enough time just to keep up with their daily life. If you've noticed, times have quickened. And so I saw the first horrible alligator get everybody, as I just told you, about this Wall Street, because what I found was most people have their money in risk. And it was so important to me to make sure that the assets were protected, that your money was safe, that you never lost a dollar in any stock market, right? Any risk. So I'm not in the stock, I'm not in any risk. I'm on the safe money side. That's just my go-to thing, because I don't like to lose money. So that's why I can look you in the eyes and say I've never lost a dime in any market risk. And then as things went on, it was really important. I saw, there were three things that people missed. And that's why I wrote my #1 best-selling book, Ready for Pre-Retirement. Now, pre was plan retirement early. But you know what I found with this book? The word retirement, people hate that word. That was a little bit of, oh, I won't use that word again, even though it was a #1 bestseller. It made people think of death or something, but really it's like the time of having a second life to me, like where you can take all your blessings from your working world and turn it into a give back world. And some of our friends on here are doing that. So the three things that I'm talking about in here are really what I've seen. Now, in my daddy's days, he was born in 1919. He actually lived to 96.1, and he was working till 91. Actually, he did very well in the stock market, but it was a different stock market than we have now. This is all global. And it's a casino, as I said. It's like a roulette wheel. Will it be there when will it be up when you retire? Will it be down? I don't like that risk. And obviously, we are in really pivotal, volatile times right now, right? And so this is a time when you really want to pay attention. I'm not saying, you have to go by how you feel, but you want to make sure that your assets are safe for what's coming. And I'm not a doom and gloom girl. I'm just reality check. And what I hear financially is a little, quote, scary if you're not set up right. Now, this one's clobbering all of us already, because we're getting the taxes and inflation out here in communist California. We have gasoline prices of $6-7, right? And that's a sneaky way of inflation. But guess what? We're going into stagflation. So it's really, and I'm an optimist, but the money guys, this is going to be some really hard times. The debt nest, I think, a number of years here are going to be really rugged in the financial world. So you got to learn how to travel through the bombs that are going off, literally, on how to protect your assets. And there's some, a few years ago, I was invited to Washington, D.C., and I spoke to the U.S. Government Financial Officers Association. These guys are the officers that handle billions and trillions of dollars. And they're real smart. And the room was full with several hundred people, and I'm giving my presentation like I am today. And I had to be really smart because I'm talking about the IRS code book. And well, back then, this is a few years ago, there was literally 75,000 pages in the IRS code book, right? And 870 tax laws. So all you guys that do know about taxes, you got to be really smart about this. But I kind of thought I was being, lighthearted, and I turned to the director and I said, how many of you ready for retirement? Crickets. I looked in the audience. These are the officers that are, no surprise, handling the money, right? 2% of that room raised their hand. And I went, oh, really? You guys are the government. I mean, you should you should be prepared. And the director looks at me and he goes, well, we're busy taking care of other people's money. Good point. That's really what we're all doing. We're all busy taking care of our family, taking care of the kids, taking care of the business, just living life. And that really hit everybody. That really targeted everybody. So I broke down what I saw as problems when you get into retirement. And I like to tell people about this ahead of time so that they can plan for these 4 taxes, which really, are problematic for people. And a lot of people, a number of people will raise their hand that they're going to be working after they retire. Like me, I'm working retired, and I'm glad, I'm grateful that I can. But I had a plan. I did it, decades ago. And so I set myself up to where I can work comfortably by the strategies that I know how to do. And it's mitigating around, you being taxed on your Social Security. I'm sure they're going to change all of this, but they literally will take money from your Social Security. So if you're making married over 44,000, that 85% gets calculated inside of that. It's usually $1 out of 3 if you're still working, but there's ways around that if you know how to set your assets up where they grow tax-free or tax deferred. And then the capital gains, and you have all of those kinds of taxes. So this is just something I tell everybody to do. I'm not the tax expert. I'm the safe money person, but just to look at your 1040 form at box 8A, 8B, and 9. This, right? Monday, you can check it out, right? And see that you may be paying more taxes than you really have to. And then we have the estate tax. Now, I won't be surprised if they try to change that back to $1 million. And there are actually programs that are out there that you can go around the estate tax with using life insurance, irrevocable life insurance trust, or AB marital. There's different programs that you can get around that estate tax. And then we have the taxes on, the usual. These are ways that you can lower the taxes, for example, with traditional tax deferred annuities. There's no federal, no state, no Social Security. So that gives you a tax deferral similar to an IRA. And then mutual bonds, not really a big fan of that. Years ago, that's kind of where seniors used to go. But nowadays, I don't think I want to invest in these cities like New York or, a muni bond in Los Angeles. No thanks. And now index universal life, I know a few of you might know about that. That's something I learned late in life, and I was so mad because these are really great ways that you can set yourself up with tax-free income for life. There's no federal, no state, and no Social Security on these. So how important is tax deferral? You all get this, triple compounding, right? Because you're not going to pay interest on your interest on the money you would have made and the money you pay in taxes. So it's going to grow 3 times as fast. Okay, my musician friend out there, you recognize this guy, right? Well, back in our day, Mick Jagger, and he's still out playing music, which is, God bless him. That's a cool thing. He's out there, and I bet you he has his annuity, his safe money, because you can't rely that you're going to be functioning. You have to set yourself up with safe money income when you get to the point where you can't work. And to me, peace of mind is more important than trying to make more money. I want safety, but I want liquidity. I want tax advantages, no probate, and good returns without risk. Of course, I want to protect my money from catastrophic illness. Now, there are a lot of kind of annuities. There are variable annuities, and there's a safe annuities, equity index annuities. I'm on the safe side. I'm just working with the equity index annuities, and those are performing, the ones that I use, at 5 to 9% in an accumulation where you can take 10% out. And what I like to do is I like to show people, I do the financial fitness strategy with people, and I don't charge for that. I hop on the phone for 20 minutes and I ask you your age, your health, your wealth, your growth, what your goals are. Do you have kids? And I show you these plans related to you. And really, there's no charge for it. But the idea is to empower you so that you can make choices and know the choices that you have to make. So again, I want to ask you, do you want less tax and more money? Let me hear a yes there in that chat. Yeah, and it's affirmative, just like David puts the thumb up. That there's something about that when you say yes, instead of the passive, you say, yes, I do, which means you're going to take action and do something about it. This is what I learned about late in life. And I'll tell you what, it's sort of like a PhD in money. right? Because nobody learned it. There's no judgment that you're starting your retirement plan at 60, but or 50 or 40 even, because you didn't know this. But here's the PhD in retirement. There's only two places your money is going to be when you retire: taxable and tax-free. Basically, you have all your stocks, mutual funds, sale of business, real estate, your IRAs. Check this out. All these IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, they're big old tax bombs. They're going to be taxed on the way out as ordinary income. So we were all taught when we were younger, yeah, put your money away in your 401k and you'll be in a lower tax bracket. Ha, ha, ha. Because we're going to be and are being clobbered with taxes. So that money's coming out at ordinary income. So if you have $100,000 and you're being taxed to 40%, in your planning, you've got to realize you've only got 60. And when you're setting up a plan, you don't want to think about just one thing you have. You have to look at how it works with your Social Security, how it works with other income if you're working. How does it all work together for your fabulous future? The work with, the life without work, really. And then the tax-free. So now I told you about muni bonds. That used to be the way that seniors used to protect their assets. Roth IRAs, fabulous ways, but the problem with Roth IRAs that I don't like is risk, because where are they going to be put? In mutual funds and stocks, which is risky. So again, you got that roulette, Wall Street casino. Is it going to be up or down when you get there? And then you're limited if you're a high income earner and you're individual and you only make 100,000, or you have a family, you make 160, then you're going to be limited on how much you can put in there. And then we have the index universal life, which is my favorite thing. And that is going to give you tax-free income. So it really gives you what I call accelerated. You get to live off the death benefits, accelerated death benefits. So here is the IRA reboot. And I'm going to prep you with this. Like I told you, I learned late in life. Now I did this late in life because it is health driven. You have to have health for it. I have great health. Thank God. But I learned about this and I was a little irate that they didn't really teach this to us when we were little agents, so we could help all the people that didn't have money. So how this works, as I said, is your IRA is a big tax bomb. And so there's going to be a problem when you take that money out, and it's called the IRA reboot. So it's going to allow you to take your money out tax-free. That's right, with no out-of-pocket costs. So how does it work? So let's just say you have $1 million. You can take zeros off. You have 100,000, doesn't matter. But the real account, your real value after your taxes is going to be 20 to 40% less than you expect. So how you have this taxable asset. So what are you going to do? Well, here's what you're going to do. You're going to be able to transfer that over a few years into what's called investable life insurance. So you're going to turn $1 million of taxable money into $1 million of tax-free income for life. And that's systematically done over 3 to even 10 years. Now, you could actually use the death benefit to pay the taxes. For example, if you have $1 million or 100,000, instead of you writing a check from that money, you're going to write a check from the death benefit. So that full money will be in there performing for you at these amazing tax-free rates. And like I said, these products have been performing 5 to 9 or even 10%. They're amazing products. And what I like about them is they're safe. Everything that I have has a floor on it. You never can lose your principal. Whatever I would show you, you would never, if we went into the Great Depression tomorrow, you never lose your principal. So this is going to allow you to reduce the taxes 1/3 to 1/2 during this conversion. It'll provide tax-free income for life. It gives you catastrophic illness, long-term care inside of the policy, so that you can use the death benefit when your 4th quarter or whatever quarter you might need it, when 2 of your activities of daily living don't work. Now, what I teach my clients to do is what's called hybrid long-term care. Stay in your own home. Don't go to a nursing home. You know the stories about that. So you're empowered. You can, and how that works is a doctor says he or she can't do 2 of her activities of daily living. They send the letter to the insurance company, and then the insurance company, depending on what product you have, lets you take 2 to 4% of the death benefit monthly, tax-free, for long-term care. Then you stay in your own home and you can pay your family or your kids to take care of you. So really what a lot of my high-end clients do, and it keeps the family in the estate too. So it's the money in the estate too. So it's a very, very cool thing. And of course, it's tax-free wealth transfer. Now, this is a little hard for me because my family was it was a nightmare. My mommy had cancer for 10 years. And thank God that God empowered me, because I'd be crying right now because it hits me every time. I can see her face. She came up to me with this paper and kind of big old tears in her eyes. And she said, honey, will you share this with your clients? And I said, Mom, what? And I'm looking at this paper and I'm kind of shaking and like, oh my gosh, it was a bill from Stanford Hospital, 5 days of chemo. I'm talking about 2010, prices in 2010. This is 2022, right? $90,000, 5 days of chemo. She had 5 days of chemo every month. $1 million is not a lot of money. So if you think you're going to insure because you got $1 million or a couple million, don't fool yourself. Now, my daddy, we were blessed. My daddy went to Caltech. I actually went to a few classes with Einstein. My dad was a genius. He did very well in that old style stock market. He had millions of dollars. He refused to get long-term care. I'm never going to a nursing home, right? My mommy wanted it. My daddy didn't. They didn't get it. And so he ended up self-insuring, meaning he ended up paying the bills. They went through millions of dollars. And, one day my dad said to me, honey, you're going to inherit $1 million. I said, Dad, I just care about you. And I really meant it. I never planned on my parents' money. A few years later, I said, honey, you might get something. That's kind of what happened, because they ended up, thank God they had it. Now, he planned all of his plan of thinking that he was going to die first and my mom was, going to live longer, but it didn't come out that way. She ended up transitioning before he did. And he went, he worked till 91, never been sick, went to a hospital, never been to a hospital, and got pneumonia in the hospital, fell, lived, another 6 years. But then I had to get him long-term care. And we're in a family that we didn't want to put people in a nursing home. We wanted to stay in our own home. And so it was a very creative way to find out about back then for my mom, long-term care, catastrophic illness. That was to hire a caregiver for your home was $15,000 a month. That was what it was. My dad, after my mommy left, and she had cancer for 10 years. So they went through millions of dollars with their drugs and therapies and all the different things, right? And my dad, when I figured it out for my dad, I found an FBI fingerprint CNA approved caregiver. And that was $10 an hour, but that was basically $70,000 in 2016. That was $70,000 a year. So he, went through his money real fast, but thank God he was able to stay home. He had beautiful caregivers, took care of him royally. And I'm really glad he had the money to do that. But most people don't have that. And 7 out of 10 of us are going to end up in a nursing home after 65. Honestly, I think it's more than that, because we have this odd pandemic things going around. So you want to learn how to be a hybrid, go through this transition on the high end and be able to stay in your own home. So you have a choice, and to protect your assets and not have to go into a reverse mortgage or all the other things that are out there. I really like to inspire people. That's why I say it's healthy money, happy life, because instead of being a boring, this is a financial, no, it's a happy story. When you learn how to do these things, it gives you peace of mind. It doesn't have to be a scary, icky kind of a thing, but you've got to expect the unexpected. It's so important. and look at how are the three things that I'm talking about in my book. How are you going to protect your assets from long-term care, nursing home costs, and the Great Depression? These are things that you want to think about and know how to protect yourself. Now, every state has a different cost, but the costs are proportionate to what you have. And the important thing is to make sure that you are protected and that you can stay in your own home and your assets are safe. Everybody buys, home insurance and car insurance. You're your most valuable asset. How many of you have long-term care? And when I'm in, live events, I'll say about 2% will raise their hand, right? Usually those are ones that get long-term care from their business or corporation or a group plan. So it's the best way that you can take care of yourself and your family, because it's not a very fun thing to pass on to your family. And that good policy covers everything that you have. So now it's ideal. And this is really, really an important thing. This other alligator, this is how I started with this little widow, right? Was the living trust. And this is another thing that people, they think that they're going to wait till, they get like 90 years old and they're going to make their living trust. A good living trust. A living trust is a legal document that's created to own and manage your trust. It protects you from probate. What's probate? Courts. What do courts take? Attorneys. And what do most attorneys take? Money. So the living trust avoids probate. It protects your assets from going to probate, courts, court costs, attorney fees. And when you look at an estate, which is basically everything that you own, all of those assets will be vulnerable to court costs and fees. So looking at that, and this is one of the things that I talk about as the three secrets, these living trusts have been around since the Middle Ages. So have annuities. They're not new things. These are old time kind of things that were pushed aside. Living trusts have been around for centuries. Now, let's just look at the Andersons' estate and just kind of talk about what happens when somebody goes through probate. They go to court. They're in court for 2 to 3 years. If they're not contested, it takes time, it takes money. They can take 5 to 25% of the estate in probate fees. Right now, the estate tax is 11.2, right? And it's going to go away. I think they may try to change the law, part of their plan, and bring it down to $1 million. Now that they're printing trillions of dollars, we got to raise more money. So if you do have $1 million, then you got to think about estate, the tax problems that are inside of that, because that's more than likely to happen. And in 2025, it's going to revert again and change again. So there are 3 basic estate distribution techniques you can use to go through your trust. Do nothing. Obviously, you don't want to do that. Wills, and that's what most people think about when they think about estate planning and living trust. So doing nothing, that's dying intestate. When you die intestate, the probate court distributes your estate according to the laws of the state. And you do not want that, because you may end up having someone that you don't like handle your estate from your family or from the government. So it's very important that you have a plan in place, and it's not an age thing. I believe the times we're in, I think everybody needs this. Now, one really, really important thing to throw in here is that living trusts have guardianship provisions. And this is something that when we're 20, 30, 40, we don't think about. Mom and dad go out to dinner and don't come back. Who's going to take care of the kids? We just think that then when we're 20 and 30 and 40 that we're going to live forever. So these living trusts have guardianship provisions inside of them that will enable you to set everything up. If something happens, that your kiddos are going to be protected and taken care of with what you want in your family. Now, when you die, the probate courts, now people think, well, I've got everything in joint tenancy. Won't that protect me from probate? Not really. What it does, one of the things that it does, is it loses your stepped up tax basis. So people like say a husband and wife, well, we both have joint tenancy, so if one of us die, we'll do it after the other guy dies. Oh, well, you just lost your stepped up tax basis until they change that law. Right now, as of this time, if I have a living trust, say my husband and I, we have a living trust, he passes away before I do, I'm going to get a stepped up tax basis. That means I'm going to get a capital gains on the death of the first spouse. So if I decide, oh, the house is too big now, I need to move a year later, I'm only going to have a year's worth of capital gains. So that's a pretty huge savings if I've been in the house for 40 years on taxes. So living trusts help you with those kinds of taxes right there too. And so you get the stepped up tax basis inside of there too, which is a fabulous thing to have. Some people actually have banks, and they go to the bank says, oh, put your kids on your bank account as a joint tenant in case something happens to you. There they are giving legal advice, which is wrong. Don't do that. Because if your lovely child gets sued, gets in an automobile accident, gets divorced, your money can be attached because their name is on there and vulnerable to other people's credit or claims that are on your account. Now, wills are what most people think of and when they think of estate planning. And will is simply a list of instructions for the judge, for court. And what they do is they look at your will and they're going to make sure that what you have is, that's what you want. And you're going to be vulnerable to all the fees and court costs that are imposed upon your death. Now, another really cool thing that a living trust does, it does give you a prenuptial agreement, meaning if I get married again, which I'm not, but if I get married again, everything that I have in my trust is protected from the second marriage. So all my assets are going to go to my kids from the first marriage. And then when I get married to the second person, then I would make a trust for that marriage. And it can keep your assets separate if you choose to, or you can commingle them depending on what you want. Okay, my favorite plan is the living trust. And as I said, living trusts have been around for centuries. Back in the 90s, only the rich people knew about them. And I'm not bragging, but I was one of the first people to do workshops on the difference between wills and trusts. And I'll tell you, it was kind of like, what are you saying? I was kind of rocking the boat because at the time people thought only attorneys could make living trusts. Well, I make living trusts for attorneys. I make living trusts for banks. I've made over 6,000 living trusts. Thank God I've never had a problem. They work just fine. They're fabulous tools. They help you control the distribution of your estate, minimizes the fees and taxes that are imposed upon your death, completely avoids probate, avoids conservatorship, very important thing these days. If you become incapacitated or otherwise can't handle your affairs or go skiing and can't pay your bills, it provides somebody in there to take care of business for you. You maintain full control over all the assets you place in the trust. And that way you can totally avoid probate, conservatorship, and all those nasty things. When you set up a living trust, you're going to simply transfer the title of all the assets you wish to place in the trust from you as an individual to you yourself, trustee of the trust. So you become the trustee of the trust, and then you're going to name successor trustees, and then you're going to name alternate successor trustees. How come people don't know about this before? And literally people, like I said, this has been around for centuries, but only the wealthy people really have known about it till we got through the media barrage that was controlling actually the marketing on side of this, because attorneys make a lot more money in probate than they do make in a living trust. That's just the way it goes. And they used to have a joke that with law offices, when I worked in a law office, was how many filing cabinets they had of wills. That was their retirement. They knew they would probate so many wills and end up, making lots of money. So save that money. Now, a simple way I'll just take you through so you can just kind of capture this, how it works. We'll take Mr. and Mrs. Smith so you can see it in action. They have an estate worth $200,000. Having the living trust actually allowed them to actually save $30,000 to $50,000. And I would say that these numbers, this is a few years old. Before the pandemic, all these numbers are going to all skew again, but that's a lot of money to save proportionately. And when you put the trust, all the assets are in the name of the trust. So upon the death of both spouse, those assets will be distributed to their sons directly. And all they're going to need is a death certificate and the trust. You don't need me. You don't need courts. You don't need any middlemen. It's such a family feeling that it's so less stressful having to deal with courts and all those nasty things. I'm not going to go too much into this, but there's some different kind of trust strategies. Some people get second marriages and they want to really make sure that the spouse doesn't spend the half of the money, and there's different tax planning trusts out there. So there's a lot of different planning depending on what kind of an estate you have. It's a little high level, but we always drill down on that in our financial fitness breakthrough sessions. So okay, now Mr. Goodman is a little final case here. He's got $350,000 and he's going to save $45,000 to $60,000 in probate fees. Now, he didn't have any kids, so he set his trust up to go to some children of some lifelong friends. And he did kind of what Bing Crosby did. I don't know if you heard that story, but Bing Crosby had a trust, and his trust was set up to his heirs were not going to get any money till they were 65. What? That's right. He set it up to where they had to write a book or do something charitable in the world before he was going to give them any money. So Mr. Goodman, he kind of did something similar where he said, look, if they go to college, they're going to get this much, and he can actually control the distribution of his estate from heaven after he passes away. So it's a very cool thing, allows him to control the distribution of his assets, totally avoid probate, conservatorship, and save all that money. Now, other estate planning strategies, even if you don't have money, you should have are the living will. Very important. If you don't want to be hooked up to any artificial life support in the event of a terminal illness, then you want to make sure that you have this document and that your doctor has a copy of it before anything happens. All these things have to be set up ahead of time. Inside of our trust, I don't know if you can see this or if it shows backwards. Somehow I think it might show backwards, but our trust includes the living trust, a power of attorney for financial, a power of attorney for healthcare, a pour over will, a living will, and one deed. And inside of these are the documents that we need while we are alive, and then when we make the transition. This is another document you should have, whether you have money, a lot of money or not. If you become incapacitated, if I go skiing and break my leg, somebody could pay the bills and keep the business going. Very important document to have. To me, this is really important. I have, I'm in alternative medicine, I have certain ways I want to be treated. So I want that on my power of attorney, and my doctor has it ahead of time so they know what my medical wishes are. So that's very important to have, especially in these days. Everybody's got their own opinion on how they want to be treated, and pay attention and learn about it. But this is very important to have included in your estate plan so that all your healthcare wishes will be followed. So again, you want to keep your money out of court. Yes, yes. Okay. Avoid probate, protect your assets. You don't want to end up with all those nasty fees, and it's a living nightmare, especially if you have a family member contest it. They usually take about 2/3 of the estate going through those kinds of processes of probate and courts. Okay, we're on the home stretch here, you guys. Okay, the banker. Now, I used to be in a city, Southern California, Hemet was called. It had more banks. It was a retirement area. It had more banks on every street corner. But guess what? It's not that way anymore. Now they have fast food and phone companies on every corner. All the banks have disappeared. Imagine that. Banks are the first to go in a shake, by the way. They are. They're very volatile. And they're okay for emergency funds. I'm not saying you got to go run and take your money out of there. I don't like big banks. I like the little community banks, safe banks. And I really, really recommend you guys, I tell everybody, make sure you have rainy day money. Make sure you have enough money, cash, at home, available that you have not invested in case we get locked down again, or in case of this, or in case of that, because we are living in a 911 world. Now, I live in California. There's a lot of 911s here. I live in a fire area. I have a go-to bag. I have a fireproof, when if fire comes, I got my go-to backpack with everything, flashlights, we have that for, earthquake, fire, tornadoes, hurricanes, all those things that we all have to deal with, weather. And financial, have your financial 911 ready. I even have water in my car. That's the kind of world we're in. So be prepared and be ready with your bank too. Because, a lot of my clients went to the bank and they say, oh, well, I'm retiring now. Where should I invest my money in there? Most bankers really aren't pros at retirement planning, because if you say, well, if I go into a nursing home, what would you suggest? And they say, well, I'm not an elder care planning specialist. So you need to see someone like me, a certified senior advisor or elder planning attorney, right? That's what they do. But it will put you in Putnam or Hartford or whatever names they use. The point is that they don't know about retirement planning. So a lot of the portfolios that I've seen with senior people are in risk. It's nuts. It's crazy. And it's not their fault. They just weren't taught. So there's no judgment, but it's time for people to learn the new strategies that we're in for where we're at right now in the times that we're in. So everybody knows everything is automated and they're doing the same thing, loaning out our money on real estate. Oh, can we look at this slide again? Nobody wants to see this. Okay, procrastination. This is what we've all got. We all got one of these alligators. I don't know where mine is. I don't know where I put it, but it's procrastination. And I want to encourage everybody not to procrastinate. And the point is to retire rich, retire stress-free. That's the goal, financial peace of mind, and not to wait. People, oh, I'll do this when I get more money, or I'll do this when the kids get married, or I'll do this when, when it calms down, or they change, we have the elections, or whatever you think your goal is. Don't wait. This is the time. The time is now. And, most people are like, procrastination. It's uncomfortable. You can't trust most people especially in my industry. It's confusing. Everybody's got a different point of view, and you don't want to upset your family. My husband always banked at Bank of America. There's emotional ties to money. Like my dad gave me a stock, and it was really hard for me to sell it because my dad gave it to me, but I didn't like the risk of it. So that's, there's a lot of emotion about it. So don't procrastinate around the emotion. And so again, I'm asking you, do you want safe money? Yes. Right. David smiles. Yes. So where do we go from here? Now I put in the chat, you guys, meet with Kris Miller, financial fitness strategy session. And there is a cure. And I'm like a second opinion. A lot of people have financial planners they're happy with, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you know what? I always find a little hole in the boat. There's a little leak that maybe that planner doesn't focus on that I may find. So I'm a second opinion for your healthy money. And so you don't want to, you don't want to feel obligated by the past. You want to eliminate the confusion and get your assets in shape and get into a financial fitness strategy and protect your assets from losses, taxes, and long-term care, right? Yes, we do. And now, like I said, you can put your emails in the chat or get with David or connect with me. It's meet with Kris Miller, healthy, or you can email me at Kris at Healthy Money Happy Life, or you can even call me and I'm happy to hop on the phone. There are a number of things that I go over when I talk with you, and it's a 15-20 minute call. And then we'll find out where you have the holes in your little boat so that you can make it through the next floods we're going to have here. Remember, it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark, right? The sun is kind of out. We're kind of literally, I think we're at a calm before a storm, right? That's what it feels like right now. And it's really there. And I have tons of testimonials. Like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years, 3 decades. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I think we're going to have a little question and answers after we're done here. But again, I want to make sure that you guys get on the financial fitness strategy session. Hop on my calendar, meet with Kris Miller. My phone number is there if you want to just call me. Again, 951-926-4158. And let me know, maybe if you want to. I'm not sure what your next step is here, David, but if you have any questions now, or we can go from there. And I want to thank you all too for having me here today.
All right, Kris, that
Thank
was
you.
great. And
Right.
if you'd stop sharing your screen, or I can blow it away.
Yes. Yeah. Stop sharing it.
And let's get everybody back on. Thank you. That was a lot of information, very valuable. I think anybody at any point, I know we have financial planners, we may have differences of opinion on some of the things, but the reality of this, whatever your opinion is, doesn't matter if you let the number 6 alligator go, which is just procrastinating on it to where, so I think it serves everybody, whether you're on this thing live, or you're with us on the in the mastermind. If you're in the mastermind today, or you're looking at a replay later, I'm going to post Kris's links on the recording, the replay of this, so people can find this. If you're watching the video, there's a ton of information there. Even if those of us that were here live, I know I'm going to go back and look at that. And your book, is there do we get your book through like Amazon? Is it available on any of those?
You know what? You can reach out to me directly, and because you guys are on this, I will do this at $10. Normally I sell it at $20 at live events.
Right.
If information, the date doesn't, this information doesn't age. The things have been around for centuries that I talk about in here. So if you want the book, $10, and then I can just, plus postage, and I can mail it to you like that.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that. And I know there's a lot of planners on here, and I work with other planners too. So if you want to learn about the Ira Reboot, I'm not in any competition with people, and I can show you really cool things that you can add to your practice. And I also do living trust workshops, because a lot of planners don't do that. And maybe that's something that you can add value to your clients and give them something cool. So I work with everybody, and I'm not in any competition. I love to share what I have so that you can help other, there's a lot of people out there to help, so we can all share in it together.
Well, for sure, Kris. In fact, one of the attributes of this group is that that we do go through. We don't view anybody as competition, so we're always collaborating. We always say, when you have one-to-ones with people, it's just Grover Brilhart, who's not here, he's also a financial planner, and he'll say it's just a conversation. And really that's the case with anybody in the networking space, if you're approaching it the way we teach, and that is that it starts with a relationship, and you've done a great job of giving us a foundation of at least thought for a relationship with you. And I know that you are here to serve, and I appreciate that. Any questions? If you have a question, or have just something that you want, a comment, open up your mic. I'll bring you up to the stage at this point, and you can layer that. Randy, I kind of expected the master of questions here to have one. So go ahead, Randy. I'm adding you. Go ahead.
Well, that was a great talk, great discussion. I really appreciate everything, and I'm
Thank you.
pleased to say that I have done everything that you've suggested about 3 years
Yay.
ago. We have a local financial advisor, and We went through that whole process. The only thing that I've highlighted that I have to check on is taxes upon death. And I've got to follow up with him and make sure we've got that covered. But that was a very thorough, very understandable. So I really appreciate that. It gave me a lot of peace of mind that I didn't do a lot of the wrong things. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Randy. All right. That's good.
Ricky, I'm going to wake you up here, buddy. So any comments or thoughts from your perspective? Any Americana considerations that we should have here? You need to unmute though.
Whenever she was talking, I just was recollecting my mother, who lived to be 98, and how expensive it was for her to stay at home, and how fortunate it was that I have a sister who is really well off, and she took that on herself to pay for all of that and have that done. And my mother got to stay at home and die in the bed that my father died in. So
Yeah.
She really had no retirement plan. She never really worked, so, but I was just, jumps me back in my memory of how fortunate it was that my sister was able to do that. And she lived close too.
That's awesome. Great.
That's
great.
beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks, Randy. Ricky. Ruth, any thoughts from you in the follow-up here?
A lot of the things I'm familiar with because of working with parents and what they're going through, and other things that I have on a list now to check out because some I've never heard of, and very interesting. The whole discussion was very interesting to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've got both of the financial planners here and our graphic artist off camera, but I'm going to actually ask Alan if you're able to, if you can give any inputs or thoughts at this juncture. If you can ask if you can start your video, and are you able to come on Mike or Todd, either one of you, whoever gets to the first. Okay, Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I thought it was very good. I enjoyed it, and it's a good recap and good reminder to everybody to, these things that you got to follow.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, and I really appreciate you guys looking at. One of the things we've got a network of about 1,800 people, and then number of the folks here are also in the Be Connected network. So part of why we do this is, number one, to expand our own thinking, as well as be able to serve others as we encounter their challenges. So we may have, I may have something sorted out that this doesn't help me with necessarily, but there's always people that come into our path that'll do that. Don Huff, you want to weigh in on any thoughts or questions that you have?
No question. Oh, am I unmuted?
Yeah, you're good.
No questions, but thank you very much for the presentation. Been kind of going through that with my mom passing away last year, and my dad having to update his trust and get all that done. And it reminds me that I haven't done any of that.
All right. Good for.
Thank you. I'm glad there's a caring and knowledgeable person who can help people through all that difficult stuff to figure out.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah, I would agree, and I thank you again, Kris, for sharing with our network. And I know, as I said before, when we started, this will be recorded. It will be a replay on the Be Connected platform, as well as it'll be on our YouTube channel. So if you have a conversation, you're doing your networking thing individually or whatever, and you run across somebody that needs this kind of conversation, or you can obviously start with some of the folks in the network, but now you can consider Kris part of the network as well. She shared her information. It'll be available in the recording, the links. And again, Kris, I appreciate you sharing with us. But let's give her one more hand here, virtual hand. I know, awesome job. I appreciate it.
You.
So now,
it too.
thanks, Kris. So